Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe now to get the latest ancient history news and independent research from around the world. You can't really research ancient human prehistory without acknowledging Homo Neanderthalensis, and these are an extinct species or subspecies of archaic human, and they lived alongside us in Eurasia till around 37,000 years ago. They were only discovered in 1856, and far from being a lumbering primitive cave dweller, as was once so often portrayed, they were actually highly intelligent and their brains were even bigger than ours. They evolved around 400,000 years ago, most likely from an earlier ancestor called Homo Heidelbergensis, and the fact they survived more than 300,000 years does show they were successful, and we do know quite a bit about them. We know they were hunters, bringing down big game like woolly mammoths. They collected plants and fungi and ate seafood. They knew how to control fire. They made blankets and clothes from animal skins and made tools and jewellery. They made use of medicinal plants and they cared for the sick, the injured and the elderly. They stored food and even had different cooking techniques like roasting, boiling and smoking. Their art does look abstract and there is clearly meaning and complex symbolic thought involved. The evidence suggests they were not uncultured or behaviourally inferior, but how much did they inspire Homo sapiens and how much did Homo sapiens inspire them? In fact, how much of the ancient rock art is in fact the handiwork of Neanderthals? I reckon more than we think or would like to admit. Neanderthals created shelters for protection. They were not just simple cave dwellers. In fact, they even created the famous Ice Age mammoth houses long before Homo sapiens. A team of French archaeologists discovered a house in modern-day Ukraine that was built by Neanderthals around 44,000 years ago, and mammoth bones were used in its construction. The same type of houses would be adopted by Homo sapiens in Europe, Russia and Siberia. But I want to know, did they teach archaic humans how to do it? It's likely Neanderthals were capable of speech and also had a belief system. They collected crystals and fossils, and this flute, an instrument made between 50 and 60,000 years ago, also shows they had music. Neanderthals were so like archaic humans that there is some disagreement of how they should be classified. Should they be looked at as a separate species of human or a subspecies of Homo sapien? We know that archaic humans and Neanderthals interacted and interbred, and they shared the European continent for around 14,000 years. But they didn't survive the Ice Age. They went extinct around 37,000 years ago and no one really understands why. It was probably a number of factors. They were living in a constantly evolving environment, a constantly evolving climate, and ultimately that would put pressure on animal and plant sources of food. It is thought they lived in relatively small groups, anything from 5 to 30 people, and that's compared to groups of Homo sapiens that could have topped 150. There was safety in numbers. The small size of the group meant they were more vulnerable to climate change, to food shortages, to predators, and also maybe to Homo sapiens themselves. When Homo sapiens entered Europe, there was new competition for food, and because Neanderthals reproduced more slowly, they were always at a disadvantage. It was very much survival of the fittest. It is thought by some that Neanderthals assimilated into groups of Homo sapiens, but it's really hard to know the dynamics. We don't know how they interacted. But interestingly, a large amount of modern-day Asians and Europeans have between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA. I know I do, and I'm sure many of you do as well. But people of African origin south of the Sahara have 0% Neanderthal DNA. So Neanderthals do live on through many of us, and I find that quite an interesting fact. People of Europe and Asia should not mock Neanderthals, because, quite frankly, they are in fact our ancestors. They're part of our genetic makeup and a part of the human story. A big part. They may look different, but not that different. and 99.7% of Neanderthal and modern human DNA is identical. As time goes by, we're learning more and more about Neanderthals. We have their bones, their trinkets, their tools and body ornamentation, and we've also found their homes, their art and their burials. We even know what they look like, and that's from the study of the Neanderthal genome. For example, some of them evolved red hair and pale skin long before Homo sapiens. Although to some extent Neanderthals do live on through modern Homo sapiens, I really want to understand their demise. Why did they die out? Did modern humans take all the resources and food? Did they fight? Did Homo sapiens wipe them out and murder them? Because we know that modern humans can fight and go to war for any number of reasons. Or was their demise all down to the climate and environmental change? As a person of European origin, I have to say that understanding Neanderthals does feel important. I want to understand their lives and their demise because a small percentage of me is them. Scientists now know that things like type 2 diabetes, obesity, depression and allergies all can be related to Neanderthal DNA that many of us do have. So many things that make us human, caring for the sick and the elderly, a love of art and music were also shared by Neanderthals as well. Modern humans are not as unique as we may think, and although Neanderthals did die out, they are our closest extinct relatives and they do live on through us. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.